Hi Kevin, here's some feedback on Unit 5 Assignment 2, the trigonometry of the primary trig ratios. Okay, you started off great, and in question 1 you were doing everything perfectly until you hit D. Just be careful because D is a cosine, not a sine. For E and F, you did great. Let me just move this up a little bit here. Here we go. Okay, so for question 2, just a little bit of confusion here. So when you're finding sine, you're using the opposite and the hypotenuse. So for the 42-degree angle, opposite is up here. So when you solve, also keep one decimal place unless you're told otherwise. So 9.3 is the distance along the top side here because that's the opposite side in relation to the angle 42 degrees. For the second part, when you're calculating the other side and we're using cosine, you did that correctly, but you put it in the wrong spot. You put the 10 on the top and the 9 over here. And also one decimal place is preferred, so 10.4 meters would be better for this side here, okay? So now for question B, one thing that you have to keep in mind, just always use your common sense on these questions. If you had two sides that were identical in length, then what you've done is created an isosceles triangle. And we know that isosceles triangles have two base angles equal as well as two sides equal. So if we saw 45 and 45 here and here, this angle and this angle, then 12 and 12 would make sense. But if those angles are different, then we don't want to see the two sides being the same. Okay, so again, rounding off has created part of that issue here for us. If we keep the angle to one decimal place, 23.6 degrees, will give us an answer, a side length here of, no, sorry, that was finding the angle. Will give us another angle of 65.4 in the other corner. And then doing your calculations and keeping one decimal place would give you 12.5. So at least you would have a difference in the side length sizes of 12 and 12.5, okay? So for part C, if you're working from angle 53 down here, then 12 is actually the opposite. That was the one that you were given. Sorry, that's the adjacent. Should that be 10? Am I looking at the wrong question? That's 12. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong question. So the adjacent is 12, the hypotenuse is 15, which means we're using cosine and not sine. And so that's going to change the answers that you get there. You're right about the second part, it is cosine. So if you're using the correct numbers for the angles, then that will work using the cosine there. Okay, so just a couple of things to watch out for, just naming your sides, and just double checking using common sense for things that you know about angles. The smallest angle is always across from the smallest side. The largest angle is always across from the largest side. Those things will point out to you if you check for them whenever you've made some kind of mechanical or calculation error. And so it's a good way for you to pick up marks on tests and quizzes and things, to be aware of those little checks that you can do before you hand it in and make sure that you haven't made those mistakes, okay?